What's up, everybody? This is John with Archer Film. So, what makes a movie good? Objectively good. You can argue that movies are subjective, and there is a point to that. I mean, if you have very little life experience, very little film experience, then the most basic of entertainment will be enjoyable. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy, big budget sort of simple movies, if it's just fun, I'm all for fun. But what the medium is capable of is so much more. A movie can be both entertaining and fun and also meaningful and cathartic. And these things are important. This is the greatest artistic medium that exists. Film has the capabilities of moving you on so many levels, an intellectual level, an emotional level. It just really can provide all those things when it's done well. And we have about 100 years worth of films to go through to find the ones that are done really well. And there's evidence, obviously, in those films that it can be done that way. So I don't want to waste my time with boring movies or one-dimensional movies. And again, I do enjoy entertainment. I watched most of the Marvel movies, and some are really entertaining. Ragnarok, for one, the first Iron Man, and the Avengers movies, all very entertaining. The rest, you kind of have to sit through, and that's the point of this, is like in the action in Iron Man, in the very first one, there's meaning to it. And I think that's why it established, the whole Marvel Studios for the most part. But then later on, the action gets repetitive, and the action just is action for action's sake, like the opening sequence in Black Panther. Then it just becomes this jumble of action. There's not a lot of meaning going on. It's just, here's the plot. We're going to advance it with, a 20-minute action scene. And that is what starts to get boring. Action for action's sake is boring. But if you inject meaning into the action, then there's more going on, and it operates on multiple levels. I'm going to give you 3 examples where the action operated on multiple levels. It's not just what's at stake for the character, but the meaning of the actual film, the theme, is embedded in the action as well. Now, the first example I'm going to give you is Lethal Weapon 3. So the whole concept around Lethal Weapon 3, actually it's Lethal Weapon 4 that deals with that, not Lethal Weapon 3. Riggs he's struggling with his relationship and the idea of domesticity, like getting married, settling down, having a house. He's lived in a trailer on the beach for 2 years. He lost his wife, so he's a little messed up because of it. And he feels that if he gets settled down with another woman, then she's in danger, because of his job and the way he, operates, a little reckless. So domesticity is a major theme for that character. Now, that is expressed in the action later on when he's chasing the bad guys down the street and they're climbing in and out of a house that's being towed on the back of a giant truck. So think about that. His whole thing is domesticity, right? That's the theme of his character in that he's struggling with. And here he is. What is the sort of, the most iconic image of domesticity? Well, that would be a home where your family lives. So they literally use a home that he's like climbing in and out of, and at some point he's dangling from the back of it while he's fighting the bad guys. So his inner struggle and his outer struggle are combined thematically in the action set piece. It's outstanding writing. It's actually a really good entry into the Lethal Weapon series. Okay, so here's another one. This is in Revenge of the Sith. When Yoda and Palpatine are fighting in the big Senate room with all the little spheres that are floating, and each one represents, a system, Palpatine starts throwing those giant floating spheres with the Force at Yoda, and Yoda's jumping all around. Well, that's an excellent illustration of the theme played out in the action. Palpatine is throwing these orbs with the Force at Yoda. What do those orbs represent? Each one represents a star system. It's clear he does not care about any of them. He is an emperor. He does not care about other star systems. And here he is throwing them at Yoda like they're nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like the action represents the character's sort of theme as well. All right, the last one that I'm going to give you, the example is for the film of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It is such an excellent script. It is hard to believe Simon Kinberg wrote it at USC Film School as his senior project or something, and it went on to, get sold, get made, star, two of the biggest stars in the world at the time, made a boatload of money, and established him as a very prominent, writer, director, producer on the scene, right out of film school. And what is really clever about Mr. and Mrs. Smith is, the concept is two CIA agents that are assassins, that are married to each other, don't know that each other is an assassin until they're, of course, contracted to kill each other. And then all the fun breaks loose. So it starts out with them giving interviews to a shrink, and they're having a hard time sort of, getting along. They're struggling in their marriage. So that's kind of the underpinning of their relationship, is they're struggling in the marriage. Why are they struggling in the marriage? Well, clearly they're holding big secrets from each other. Their entire secret life as assassins, right? So once they have to start killing each other, the secret comes out. So in the middle of them, fighting each other, eventually the bad guys come in. They're also dealing with this big secret that they both had, and now they don't trust each other and all these things. So it's a very deep relationship film, which is surprising coming from such a young writer. And it actually was very interesting and made a lot of sense. And the action set pieces illuminated that theme. So there's this big, when the bad guys are chasing him, they actually team up to go after the bad guys. There's a great chase sequence. Now, there's a chase sequence in every single movie, action movie. And again, like Lethal Weapon, this one illustrates the theme perfectly. They're in a minivan, okay, another symbol of domesticity, and they're, fighting the bad guys that are all in BMWs. And of course, there's the clever dialogue like, how many, and, it's insinuating like how many of you slept with, but it's really like how many people she's killed. It's a very clever, very funny, charming, fun action movie with, like I said, with a lot of meaning in the imagery. The other scene at the end, this is the big climax of the movie. Spoiler if you haven't seen it. They team up to fight the bad guys back to back, and they're in a giant sort of home, like a Bed Bath & Beyond type thing. So again, it's them in this sort of domestic situation. It's a store with all these home products, and the idea is we got to team up in life. So the idea on the surface level is we have to team up in order to beat the bad guys, but the deeper level about their relationship is like, look, in order to sort of succeed in life, we have to team up as a couple as well. And so they set it in that arena, the sort of home place, for home goods. And that's where they set it. And that's just brilliant writing. And so when you're watching an action film, obviously the action's got to be fun and entertaining and thrilling and believable looking. But also there's meaning involved. And those are the deeper levels to some of these movies where it's basically expressive art versus decorative. Decorative art is just bells and whistles, flashes, lots of cool stuff going on, but there's not really anything at stake. There's no deeper meaning. There's nothing really at stake for the actors or the characters. You know that they're not going to get injured or die. It's decorative art versus expressive. That's why some of these movies that some people find really entertaining or really interesting just don't do it for me. Like Black Panther was one. They're just the whole opening sequence, and again, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, he's amazing. He was such a good actor, and his character was really cool. I just had a lot of problems with that movie. And one was the action just seemed like almost blurry. It was just stuff happening, almost like, a Michael Bay film, like some of the Transformers, where it's just a whole crazy collage of, mechanical sounds, and you can't really decipher what's happening. That's why, action films, when they're done well, they're very entertaining, but for the most part, it's not my favorite genre because it's very hard to do smart. And that is it. That is why I look for those deeper levels, because when they're there, it's very rewarding to watch. And when they're not, it can feel hollow and like a waste of your time. All right, that is it from me. Thanks for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.